Kia ora, and welcome to Constellations and All That. I'm your host, Tracy Cartwright, and together we will be exploring the world of family constellations with facilitators and clients from around the world, looking at different perspectives and experiences in the work, having a cup of tea and just chatting with some friends around their experiences in constellations. We'd love for you to join us. I hope that you enjoy this series as much as I have loved making it. Kia ora everyone, welcome to Constellations and All That. Today I have the pleasure of chatting with my friend and colleague Kylie Aroha Fifield. Kia ora Kylie.
Kia ora.
As you've heard, I know that you listen to the podcast as well, so I don't introduce my guests as far as saying what they do, where they come from. I allow the guests to share whatever is there for them. So this is your opportunity to share with our listeners and our viewers a little bit about you.
Okay, well, I'm a mum of 5 children, ranging from 21 down to 7. And I love to garden, I love rongoa, Māori, I loved constellations work, and a little bit about where I come from. I live in Kaikuhi, which is in the far north of New Zealand, and I whakapapa to the very far north of New Zealand, so Ngāti Kuri, Te Aupōuri, Te Raroa, and I also have tūhoi Te Aroha connections through my grandmother as well.
Beautiful. And you have some connections to Ireland, is that correct?
I do. So my dad, through his mum and dad, so both my nana's parents are Irish originally, and they came from Ireland through to Australia and then through to New Zealand. And then my granddad's family from my dad's side came through from the UK over on a ship called the Black Prince when my grandfather was about 17, I think, with his mum and dad here to New Zealand. And we've got a bit of Scandinavian, a bit of Finnish whakapapa in there as well.
Mm. The Black Prince, you've reminded me, because I'm going to just jump straight in here. We were together on the weekend down in Devonport at the Sea Scouts Hall where we had our mini immersion, and there was a sign there.
Yeah. It was so cool because I've never seen, especially like because of being very actively on the journey of learning all about my whakapapa for my Māori side, and because mum's Māori and dad's Pākehā, and so it's really cool to see those things and to know, to be reminded that my great grandfather was in the Navy, and to see the Black Prince, especially being in the north, and I'm very, very, very much around the Lanai and all of those things. So that was really cool. And just cool to be in the area like where my grandparents have lived and my dad when they were growing up. And so it was cool on the weekend. It's nice to have those reminders. Dad always gets a little bit worried that we forget about his side. We're like, we don't forget.
Can't forget when the signs are there for you, hey?
Yeah.
They keep showing up. So beautiful. Yeah, I remember your response to seeing the sign, and it was like, oh yeah. But it was almost like a reminder, that they were like, yeah, we're here as well.
Yeah. And also, like, it was really cool because when I was in my Te Reo Māori class, we had to, one of our assessments was, or assignments was to speak about a person in your whānau. And I had used somebody from my Pākehā whakapapa, which was my great-grandfather, and that's how I learnt about him coming over on the Black Prince. So it's like how it all mixes in.
Oh, that's so cool. It's very cool. I know the story of how you got into constellations, but I'd love for you to share with the listeners around how you first met constellations and what, if you can remember, what that experience was like for you, being someone who didn't know about it at the beginning or hadn't heard about it.
I had sort of been on a little mission in my life after learning about all these different healing modalities and being on an active path of healing for myself. I was sort of had this mission that I was going to find the thing that was going to be the most efficient bang for your buck something that I could do for others, because I had recognized it was quite hard for myself to learn as an adult and to be able to heal a lot of the things that had happened in my life. And I just wanted it to be easier for other people. And I could see that it was very costly. And at the time, I had the money to be able to do all of these different things. So that was my little mission in life I had. And so I had a friend who had recommended Family Constellations to me. And she was the type of friend where if she says it's good, it's good. You know it's going to be good. So I didn't know what it was about, just, yep, I know it's going to be good. And I had not been able to get to a constellation workshop in our area where I was living, but then there was a little ad on Facebook, and it was a taster session with yourself. And I thought, yes, I'm going to go do it. So I realized later on in hindsight, a taster session is meant to be just a little bit shorter, but I'd done a full blown constellation. And I remember being really nervous as well, because for me, like, yeah, I remember being really nervous. And you had said at the time, your grandmother's here, and I knew that she was here. So that was your little like gifting as well. But that was enough for me to go, yes, I can trust this, because I was still a little bit nervous still. And yeah, had a full on session, and I was just like, this is it. This is the thing I've been looking for that just has the biggest impact. I could just feel it. I could just feel it rippling out from myself, backwards, forwards, all over the place. And I just thought, wow, in this one session, you can do so much. And that was at that time, not even realizing, not even having the, the what I know now about how much it spreads out and ripples out. And I just thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. And I did the one session. And then I think you had contacted me because, well, you had contacted me. Can't remember how, because Margie, who was in our area, did Family Constellations, and she wanted to train some people in the work before she had left, because she planned on moving away. And so you had let me know about it, and I'm like, I am in there. I was so keen. I just thought I'd found it. I'd found the thing. And I was like, yes. So I just went from one session straight into training with Margie.
Beautiful. And so where did you go with that?
So I did the first lot of training with Margie, and then for myself, I'd had divine message, where I'd had to just take a step back. Being Māori, there were things that I learned in Te Awaroa, our spiritual stuff, and I knew I had to step back and take care of things on that side of things. And then I came back and I did a second lot of training with Tracy, and that was just so cool, because it was the first time I learned it strictly within the framework of Family Constellations. And the next time coming back, it was coming back with all of who I am and being able to amalgamate that all, which has been really cool. And just really cool, like with yourself, because you know about those things as well. And so, yeah, it's really cool. It was really exciting. I was excited the first time around, but I had to do a lot of work because, as you know, you've got to always be doing your work as well. And we did a lot of work initially. So, yeah. And
Petrol onions, right?
yes. So it was just so exciting to, yeah, come back and do the second lot of training with you. And, you're amazing.
So for yourself as a mother of 5, what benefits have you noticed within your family system, whether it's your children or your siblings? Because I know you have quite a few siblings as well.
Yeah, it's really cool because, as you know, members of my family have also been a part of Family Constellations as well, and they've come to see Tracy. And so they've had really profound effects for them without sharing about what happened with them personally. And then with my own children, so my youngest daughter is 7, and she was a baby when I first started with the constellations. And my oldest daughter, she was about 15, and I was always sharing whatever I had been through. So I could see directly, so anything that was happening with me that had impacted me, I could see it happening with my daughter. So my older daughter. So it was really cool, and being able to talk to her literally like things that were releasing within my own whakapapa and my own journey, like it was releasing my daughter in front of my eyes. And so it was really cool because initially I thought, oh, yay, there's somebody else to do the work with me for just thinking about my own side of the family. And then later on, realizing that she has more than just a mum, she has a mum and a dad. So it's really cool. So seeing the effects happening with her dad's family as well. But yeah, for me, like especially, it's huge. Like in 7 years, massive. Like the peace would be the biggest thing. Like
Yeah.
just to be able to just be in life now, not so chaotic. Well, never as chaotic as what it used to be like. That's the biggest thing. And just acceptance, like just to be more settled as a mum and with my children as well, not having to worry about them as much, like recognizing, like, just as I have my journey in life, my kids do as well. And that's given me,
Honoring their fate, isn't it? Like
yeah.
acknowledging that they will have to have their own life experiences and we can't stop that from happening. We can clear what we're carrying and what we may be passing on, but as human beings, they will still have their life experiences.
Yeah. And that's probably the hugest thing. I will sit there and I'll just look at them and think, wow, they're just living their life. Don't feel the need to save them and to control to try and, because I'm trying to keep them safe from things that I thought I needed to keep them safe from, instead of allowing them to learn and have that growth and whatnot. Especially because I grew up not wanting to be hurt. I didn't want to be hurt. And so that was a huge thing. And so recognizing through this journey that, hurt helps to be a catalyst for change, and that there's ways of being able to process and deal with hurt. Like, and that's, really huge. I just love being able to just be in certain places, like even with my siblings and whatnot, being able to be at family functions and just smile and sit there and like not worry about being upset or triggered. Like that's huge to me. Like still all the time I'll sit there and love it.
And knowing you for the time that I've known you, recognizing the shift in your nervous system,
Oh, heck yeah.
recognizing it from my own experience, from my own overwhelm. It was like I was like a really tightly sprung coil but that made me super sensitive as well in a not healthy way. Whereas now my nervous system is way more relaxed and at ease and at peace, but I'm still sensitive, but I've learned to bring it down so that I'm not taking on everyone's stuff, still feeling it. And as we shared just before we recorded this, potentially there's a bit more work to do on that level for myself because it can take a toll on the body. But I just want to honor and acknowledge the shifts within you and your nervous system that I recognize from my own experience, and that has given me the gift of being able to receive and read other people's nervous systems very quickly.
Yeah, recognize it. That's what's really cool with the work and working like in workshops with other groups of people. I remember one of the first ones where I was representing, so we weren't looking at my issue, but as we know, we might be looking at our own issue when we're having a workshop, or we could be a part of somebody else's. And I remember stepping in for somebody who had a very loving relationship with her dad. And I didn't actually know what a healthy love was. So to be able to step into that was like, oh, this is what it feels like. Or this is what it feels like to really love your dad. That was probably like something little, but probably like one of the biggest things that had like a huge impact on me as well, being a part of somebody else's.
Yeah. When you represent or resonate for someone else, it can show you stuff within your own family system or your body, or like you say, what it feels like to have experienced something that you hadn't experienced. But there's potential for it, right? There's potential for it in your field. And when you get to say yes to that, then and even if it's just a tiny little bit sometimes, it allows it to potentially move forward and come to you, or you go to it.
So cool. Love it.
So with your friends and whānau, how would you describe constellations to them? Do you use the Māori worldview with it, or how do you describe it?
It's so funny. If I'm being, it depends on who I'm talking to.
Mhm.
So, and probably a little bit of where I'm at in life. So initially I would just say, to close friends, because I swear with them, I'm just like, oh, if you want to get rid of your shit, was how I used to describe it. Like, this is what you do. Come and do this stuff. Really, that was sort of coming from the frame of mind too, that I was always like, I want to work on my healing. I want to work on trauma. I want to do this. It was always looking for that stuff, as opposed to recognizing that actually it's actually a really awesome way of being able to see what resources you in life, where your strengths are and your gifts are, that come from your tupuna, from your ancestors. So yeah, people ask me now, as you know, and lots of people know, it can be so hard. I remember in my first sort of training, I'm like, oh my God, how do I explain this to other people? I guess, yeah. So now when I explain it, I will usually just say it's a really good way of uncovering like hidden dynamics that are in your whānau, in your whakapapa, that will be possibly influencing you in the here and now, in the present. So yeah, and so it's just a really good way of looking and seeing those things and acknowledging them, and finding, where there might be a blockage, like with the flow, the Māori that comes through your whakapapa, seeing where that is, being able to acknowledge that pain or those challenges that might be there, and just honouring that as well, because that all of those things actually help for you to be the person that you are today. So that's usually how I explain it. I'll tell them that we can use people and objects to be able to represent different aspects, like in your whakapapa. So and that allows us to sort of help to find those things and to feel, yeah, like our wairua, like, yeah, where those blockages may be.
Mm.
Yeah, it just depends on who I'm talking to and whatnot. That's been the interesting part about this, being a facilitator as well, is different ways of explaining it, to be able to, so that other people can understand what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And I guess a little bit like people who know me though, they're just kind of, because they know me personally, they're like, yeah, sure, we're just going to come. We don't know what it is, but yep.
Yep. Trust you, we're here. We're there.
Yeah. So I like it. Like, yeah, that's usually how I try to explain it to people. I probably rely a lot on that people just know me.
Yeah. And so do you have clients? How do you work with it in your day-to-day life? Like I have a business and I have clients who book in and see me. Is this something that you're actively doing, or is this something you're
So
working
my
towards?
preference at the moment is I love supporting other people who are doing this work. It's my biggest preference, so I can just live life. But if you ask people around me, people turn up at my house all the time anyway.
The life as a constellation, hey?
It is. And so, yeah, because I just love the work, I very much am always encouraging people, and just living my life and the things that I've learned through this work has allowed me to have an impact on people. And I really love that organic way of
Yep.
being and whatnot. So yeah, that's what I do.
That is beautiful. That is so beautiful.
Because like it's everything in life it can help with. It's not even just, because it connects you back to those strengths and resources, you can use it anywhere. So anything I do, whether I'm also a part of Te Hauoro and Ninahi Charitable Trust. So we do work with the oranga, the well-being of people, the environment and whatnot. So I'm the treasurer for that as well. And we have huge gardens and we do pest control out in the community of Ōtawa. And so even just in everyday life, like different dynamics with different people, being able to tap into different strengths and resources to be able to do anything I'm doing, whether it's business related, it's not even just with my family, like yeah, it just everywhere it has helped me.
And sometimes it's just that little bit of a conversation with someone, right? And helping something to line back up, back into order, or acknowledging something for them. And
Yeah.
it's
And just having that, I kind of describe it that once you have a sort of energy, like I've learned this actually from being around you a lot, ways of being and that energy, which you get from lots of the different exercises that we do. Once you have that energy, like for yourself, I would match it to you. I'm like, that's what that feels like. And then I notice other people will do that with me as well. And so
yeah.
that's another part that's been really, really awesome.
Mhm. And if you feel comfortable to share anything that has been, and you don't have to share this on, I'm just going to put this out there.
Everybody knows I share everything.
I was just trying to be polite here, Kylie. So anything that has been maybe something that was a really big block or a trauma or something that was stopping you from moving forward that you've looked at without, you don't have to go into details, just and has that become a resource for you now, or it's moved out of the way, or yeah, because I know that the listeners, some of the feedback that I've had is that they really enjoy hearing people's stories
I think
or experiences. Yeah.
one of the hugest ones for me is being Māori, raised with a Pākehā dad and a Māori mother, but we were disconnected from our marae, and we didn't grow up learning our reo, our language. And so over the years, trying to learn my language, Te Reo Māori, was really hard. There was just always this block there. I didn't recognize it as a block, but it was really hard. And so I was actually done lots of courses for Te Reo Māori, worked in the Māori liaison office at the university and whatnot when I was younger, and had the opportunity to learn from Julian Wilcox and some other people as well. But I had the year I was training with Margie for Family Constellations, I was also doing the Te Reo Māori class, and my kaiako was Clara, who I'm friends with now. And so I was learning our reo and doing constellations at the same time. And I had, there was a incident in our family, an argument that had happened with my dad and my sister. And what had come about from that was my sister had got, she's a writer, and she's all the time introducing things as Māori into her writing. And she was discussing something with my dad, and he had said something, and she'd got pissed off and said, "Oh, you're just being a racist," and to my dad. And so I had heard the conversation from my sister and my dad and just had listened, and I was okay. I thought I was okay, but it triggered something. And I love my dad, and my sister loves my dad, and my dad loves my sister. He loves us. And it had triggered something. And I just kept on crying, and I'm like, what on earth is going on? And what had come about was that as a child, seeing what had happened between my mum and dad, my mum and dad are separated now. They had it was violent relationship. And as a child, what I had actually done was I had internalized from what I'd seen with my dad and how he'd been to my mum. I thought that because of the way he treated her, that he didn't love her. And in my child mind, my mum had brown skin and I had brown skin, and he mustn't love her because she's got brown skin. And then I'd equated that to being Māori. So what had actually been going on with my Te Reo Māori journey, my Māori language journey was, and I'd recognised it later on through other parts where I was learning more about myself, was that the more I was reclaiming who I was as a Māori, I had subconsciously had thought that my dad would love me less. And so that was my block. I couldn't keep moving forward because I so wanted my dad to love me on the subconscious level, which we know, there's a loyalty that we have to our parents, that I couldn't be more Māori or my dad would love me less. And that was just from a argument that my dad and sister had. And I had cried for days. I was like, what's going on? I wasn't even mad at my dad. We're very accepting of, no, we're not always very accepting. We know how our dad is. We know he loves us. So it wasn't, and just like, oh yeah, that's just dad. And to be able to look at that as well and to realize that, and so that was with Marky, that one. But the other interesting part too was that my daughter's boyfriend at the time, so my daughter was 15, he was 17, he'd actually come along to this workshop with us. So he saw all of this in this workshop as well. Yeah. And so, and then for my daughter to come back home and my daughter to hear the experience from him and myself, like that was just a huge impact, like right there. And then for my daughter to see me so vulnerable as well, like she's a teenager. She was like, I want to go and she was going to have a sleepover at a friend's. And then I said, oh, is it okay if you just like hang out with me at home? And I still remember so clearly, she was like, God, like she's a typical teenager. She wanted to have a sleepover. She's like, but I love this, like, the vulnerability that she could see with myself as well. And just being, what I realized too was just being more present, because I was always not wanting to be here in the present because that was too hard and too hurtful and all of those things. And so, that was like probably one of the biggest ones.
And I just want to say, I know your daughter's living an amazing life right now, right? So all the work that you're doing and that what she's saying yes to, and things are evolving magnificently.
Well, she makes me laugh too, because she used to say, because I always, everybody knows I'm always sharing about whatever I might be doing. And she had, my other daughter, the 7-year-old's decided to pull a ball out.
Yes.
But she had always.
He's always welcome.
She'd always said that, she goes, oh man, she used to think she didn't like knowing about what was going on. And as she's gotten older, she's recognized actually it's pretty good to know what's going on, to have the experience with people who aren't aware, and to see the effects, because they don't want to see things, they don't want to be aware of it, yet it is having a huge impact on their lives. For her to be able to see that, she's like, okay, I think I do like, like to be able to see and be aware. And so that's really cool. I love that she can call me up and ask me about different things. I do laugh though sometimes if I've been working on something and I get a little bit hesitant to share with her sometimes, because I know she'll go, no, is that why this thing, because it'll be showing up in her life at the time.
Yeah.
And she goes,
she's so enmeshed with her mum, right?
Yes, but she appreciates that then she is much more free.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a little bit,
And it's cool, like she's got a very lovely partner now, and to hear at 21 things that I did not. So I was 21 when I had her. To hear her awareness that she has, Picky, wow, you're so young. So to hear her awareness when it comes to entering into relationships and the emotional maturity that she has is really, really, really lovely. And it's just so neat. Like, I love that so much. You're 21, she's 21. I had her at 21. Wow.
I'm thinking of the exercise that you facilitated on the weekend.
Oh, the other one.
You want to share that a little bit for people, or what was?
Well, a really cool thing that we've been doing, which I love a lot, is that so being a part of the Roku Ngā Tōhunga o Ngā Hauepā is how I got to meet Faith, and then Faith and Hone, and they have the Rongoa Māori clinic up at the hospital in Rawene. And so because of Faith training in the work as well, so we both do similar mahi, that has led to holding the constellation workshops on the marae up at Pākānai with yourself and with us supporting. And so I have loved that so much, being able to be on the marae and that beautiful body. Just being Māori, you immediately feel safe because you're on the marae for some people, most people. Just a little disclaimer there. But and so being able to do different things on the marae and with more Māori, because initially when I first trained, a lot of the workshops, there weren't as many Māori people who were attending, and also a little bit, yeah, so there weren't as many Māori people, and so it's really cool to go onto the marae. And even though it's open to everybody, but that has probably excited me lots. And so leading into that exercise, which you had suggested, I think initially did we do just the Maunga maybe initially? And I think the awa just popped up. So Maunga is mountain, awa is a river for those who.
I think it was both, because it was one that I had done when I did a piece of work a couple of years ago with the ISCA, but it felt really relevant for.
And so we did that at the marae. So the first experience we with doing that exercise, which I just loved, was that. So with the exercise, we're looking at a maunga and a awa, mountain and a river that supported our tupuna, our ancestors. And then we're looking at one that supports us in the here and now. And I personally always love anything that brings together, just like anywhere around the world, there can be a little bit of disharmony with cultures and whatnot. So I love things that people can connect with when they come from, so they can see the beauty within one another, Pākehā Māori, and anything that draws people together. So the first time we had done the exercise, everybody else in the group was Māori, and there was one girl who was European, Pākehā, but she'd come from overseas. And so she didn't know, she was just the most beautiful, beautiful girl. It was super honouring of the Indigenous of New Zealand, Aotearoa, loved Māori, loved the people here, and felt like it was wrong for her to feel like that she could still belong to a whenua, to the land of where she was. And so for others to be able, in the group, to be able to, one, it was awesome that she felt safe enough to be vulnerable in that, and that she was allowed to be able to do that as well, and for others to be able to see that as well. And I just feel like it just reminds us of the humanness instead of the systems that may be having an effect on us. Yeah, that's it, darling. So I really enjoyed and appreciated that particular exercise for that reason, and just seeing all the different effects that it has on everybody. So for another friend of mine who was struggling at the time with knowing where home was. So she is Māori. She was born, I believe she was born here in New Zealand, but she's lived in Australia a lot of her life and in New Zealand. And she just didn't know, so she's growing up, as you know, within Te Ao Māori. With Māori, we, a maunga and awa, our mountain and our river, really hugely important to us. Like when we introduce ourselves, we have a little introduction of pepeha, and we're always connecting back to our maunga and our awa. So we grow up knowing this, a lot of us, and saying these things. And so she had too, but she was feeling like, I don't even know where home is for them at the moment. And having that knowing is a bit different to actually really embodying that. And so this was her first constellation workshop, and she was just like, oh my gosh, this stuff is real. She was just like, she just didn't expect it to have such an impact on her, because the work is somatic. So to feel it and embody it is so different to the knowing. And so for her to feel that, and to feel the moment awa that we're supporting her in the here and now, and where her tupuna have come from, was just like really profound for her. And so I love that. Fast forward to doing it this last weekend as well, and to see again, different experiences for people as well. Again, I think there was another similar instance where, somebody was a little bit hesitant about feeling like it was okay to be supported by a maunga and an awa here as well. So I love being able to provide a space for people to be able to be safe in that knowing and that feeling, and to honor that, yeah, of course, they really are very respectful and very loving and of the people of this land and whatnot too. So, and I also just get to I love being able to share about things from within Te Ao Māori, like a maunga and a awa to us. They're not just a mountain and a river that's just up the way. Like that is that's our part of our whakapapa, part of our ancestry. Like it's huge. I also did the exercise too. I went outside and did it for myself and got um, another layer as well, which was really, really awesome. So I loved that as well. So that was quite cool because I thought, I've done it. Like, it's a good. And I was like, did it again. And I was like, oh, actually, there was a little bit.
Yeah, I have run this exercise many times as well. My experience
Yeah.
with that exercise I had recently, I was doing a piece of work down in Tikawiti. I was at Whanamarai down there, and I was sharing that exercise, and I thought, oh, I'll just use myself as the example. Wow. Next minute, it went really deep, very quickly, because I can drop in really quickly. And what a profound experience that was, connecting with my Sami ancestors. So the Sami are the indigenous in Scandinavia. There have been so many indications and confirmations of this. And it was, yeah, it felt like another layer of some ancient connection, but ancient healing, and yeah, and being able to really feel the energy of the mountain and the awa. Wow. The strength that I've received from that was amazing. And I love the way that you facilitate it too. You really hold it in a beautiful space as well. So yeah, so I'm learning from you also in this space. It's beautiful. If anyone was in your area and they did want to have a piece of work, would you send them somewhere else, or would you see them? What would be the story if they felt really drawn to working with you, Kylie?
They felt really drawn to working with me. Well, because I know a lot of people, so I also do taonga pūoro as well. So
So for those who don't know what that is, what's that?
taonga pūoro are our Māori musical instruments. So they can be used for music, but I love the healing part about taonga pūoro. So me and a friend of Alexander Moore, we make ukutangi. And even though we're not experts, we love to share what we have learnt with other people. And people have always asked us. Actually, it started because people asked us if we could share with them. So we do those workshops. So, and we do that at Te Puro Te Whiki at the Art Gallery as well, which is also where I have occasionally done constellation workshops as well. I am in contact with lots of people all the time that always come into my world. I don't suggest people turn up on my doorstep like the others already do.
You don't, or you do? Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
I don't suggest.
We'll just clarify that for the listeners. She does not suggest they just turn up on her doorstep.
I already have enough people turning up on my doorstep. I think just living life, I'm always in contact with people. If people ask me specifically for any help, I usually will redirect them to people that I know. So currently, I will redirect people to the Rongo Māori Clinic up in Rawene, with Faith and Hone and Sam and Liza in the team. So Faith and Liza are both Family Constellations facilitators as well. And I also all the time will redirect them to Tracy because she's amazing. Or I just try to find out who the people are in the area that they're in. So I'm very well known for connecting people to other people and people trusting that if they ask me for somebody that may be able to help them, then I will redirect them or guide them to somebody who can help them. So do I take clients on myself at the moment? No, I don't. It just happens organically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share today before we sign off?
Don't forget our conference next year, our intensive, which is
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, that's right. Well, let's talk about a little bit about that. Thank you. You were part of that this year. April
Yeah.
will be the conference, and we're having another one next year. What was the highlight of that, or what would you like to share about that?
The highlight for me would be definitely appreciating being in New Zealand in Aotearoa, being Māori and being Pākehā as well, and seeing the recognition from people who had come from around the world, how things weren't as bad as I thought they were here in New Zealand. Like we have so much things that can be seen as being not very good, but it actually showed me how good our relations are compared to other people around the world. Even things with, I think Shavasti was the one that had shared how much Māori words that everybody uses, not even
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
Māori. And he said that was quite different for him. And I think Alessandra had shared that as well, that all
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
there are words that we all know in New Zealand, like whānau and tamariki and whakapapa. There are quite a few words that are very common that everybody uses. And they said that was really beautiful, which I also didn't realize how much Māori that we all use all the time until we had people saying, oh, what was that word? What was that word? So that was really awesome. Seeing our beautiful people from Australia being able to feel the land, the whenua and here that holds everybody, that was really awesome. I love that. I love that people were able to get in touch with knowing where they belong. That was huge. And to, again, like referring back to what I had said earlier, when there's an energy that can hold a space for because you recognize it and other people can, it's like other people can match it. Is that a good way of describing it? So knowing the belonging that we have here as a people, other people are like, oh my gosh, that's what it feels like. That's what that feels like. And to feel
yeah.
supported and to know, just to embody and feel that was really beautiful. Something that I guess I've taken for granted because it was just a knowing. And so for other people to be able to feel that, I really loved that. And being able to see like just the transformation from people from the beginning to the end and having people from the conference centre with the resort we were staying, you know, the
The
comment
staff.
from the
Yeah.
staff to be like, wow, to see like the people, the way they were shining at the end after they'd been there, like hearing those comments was really cool as well. Meeting other people.
Kind of need to take some before and after photos, hey, of each other, because it is really quite dynamic. Yeah.
But definitely the biggest thing is very, very much appreciating being Māori as well, like even more so. Like I just feel like we're everyone here in New Zealand is so incredibly blessed and a
Mm,
lot more appreciation, especially when you see all the not good stuff that's happening can really
yeah.
sort of take over at times.
Yep.
And there are things that being Māori, like I wish everybody could come. That's after we had the conference, I just really wished everybody in the world could come into this world as a Māori. Like I wish that for everybody because I think it's so beautiful, the things that we have in our culture, the ways of being, which, you know, they can be everywhere, but I really, yeah, that was probably the biggest thing. I'm like, oh, I wish everybody could come in this way,
I think the
like to
beautiful thing
experience it.
is that you've been able to stay connected.
Mm,
Maori have been able to stay connected to their mostly. I mean, yes, the colonization and all that did cut off a lot, but it's been rekindled in a way that other indigenous lands that have been colonized have been cut off from for such a long time, right? Whereas
yeah,
it's been a shorter time, so it's been an easier integration back into calling back in what is your birthright. Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah,
because when I
and
first came into this, I actually thought, oh, I'm going to be doing heaps of work on my mum's side because I had internalized from a lot of all of the bad things that had happened
mm,
for our people that I was going to be doing a lot of work on that side of my whakapapa.
Yeah.
And I realized actually, and it also gave me a huge appreciation and acknowledgement. So, for example, like with my Irish whakapapa, that has been so many more generations upon generations upon generations of disconnect for,
Yeah.
for some people.
Absolutely.
Whereas for Māori, it's not that long ago that we were connected. And so the disconnect is only very, very little on a timeline. And so it's very easy to connect back in. And so I can see that oftentimes when we have our workshop, Māori come in and they're just like, oh yeah, I got this.
I get it. Exactly.
We get it. And so I have a lot more appreciation for being Māori. Not that I didn't appreciate it, but I definitely appreciate it so much more now. So, and just, like it still makes me a little bit teary. I still remember it was a workshop that we'd done in Whangarei, and standing in for somebody where the generations upon generations for the Irish line of where being disconnected, I was just like, and I thought I had it bad for my Māori whakapapa, like, and that just really was a huge eye opener. And just that's what I really love, like with the work, is that, it doesn't matter how many generations back it was, we're able to find a way to reconnect us back to those strengths through this work and the gifts that are there just waiting. So, and acknowledging and seeing the things that had happened allows us to connect back into those things and bring it forward with us here, and then
Yeah.
allow it to flow through to our children and our descendants and whatnot. So cool.
There's always a sense of my experience of being in Marae. This is kind of coming away from the conference now, but has been a sense of feeling at home and wholeness. And whether that goes back to the whakapapa that I don't know my Māori heritage, I'm curious and I'm welcoming it, and I'm welcoming in more information. It's always felt stuff. I think that's another conversation for another thing. But it's a beautiful. Even before I knew that I had this, that I knew that I had Māori heritage, I'd felt it. And I think what it does is it reminds also my Irish heritage of the connection, my Scottish heritage, so what you're able to gift to the world and being who you are, and by being so connected to your own tupuna, is that you remind the rest of us of the strength of it.
That's a good description.
Yeah. And I think the conference really highlighted that for a lot of people, right? For the yearning, for a lot of people, there was a recognition of the yearning that people have deep in their souls to have that connection, to that belonging, and finding that in where they are and maybe creating something, but knowing and reconnecting back to the ones that feel strong and solid in their own stand within their Indigenous roots.
And like
Another reason too why I remind people that, I remind us that we all come from the people of the fire. The original people. And we can take from that. And yes, there've been many, 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 many millions of ancestors that have been cut off, but there's still always threads there for us to connect to. So we live in a time when we have this opportunity to reconnect, to rekindle, to remember.
Even like one of the ladies, she's like one of my favorite. I won't name her. She'll know. Like she had like another beautiful thing that had come about afterwards was she's Pākehā in Australia, and so she had asked when she could see our relationship between people here in New Zealand and Aotearoa, she was like, oh my gosh, like she wanted to be able to foster that back in Australia. And she's like, she just didn't realize that how different it was. And so for her to be able to experience here compared to back in Australia, she just didn't know. She's a super beautiful, lovely person. Love her. And so just asking, she was like, what can I do? What can I do? And it's just as, I just said to her, just find out at least who are the people of the area you're in. find out as much
Yeah.
as you can on your own to learn about the people that of where you live. Even that, just acknowledging that, just starting there. And so to be able to share in that level, to be able to have an effect, and that wasn't even a constellation, that was just the connections from that had come about because of the constellations. Be able to share in that way through this work as well is just really awesome as well.
Yeah. Phenomenological.
It
It's
is.
such a big word,
I
isn't
love
it?
it.
Spreading out there.
This morning, like thinking about without the Te Reo Māori and our Māori language, realizing that, like we can step into ourselves in a space where we can understand and hear. I realized that too, even with Te Reo Māori, because as I've gone and on this journey, I've realized that what was translating before is often just felt. It's just a feeling. And
Yeah.
so recognizing that, I'm like, ooh, we could do that more so as well in our everyday lives. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Beautiful. I look forward to seeing more of this, right? And how this can be touching more lives in New Zealand and obviously around the world. But this is what you and I are part of a community that our goal, our intention is to create community and allow people to find the healing here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Well, beautiful, Kylie. Thank you so much for your time and your beams of wisdom that are coming out from your crown. Oh, that's so funny. It's been lovely to have you here, and yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. Head over to Instagram and tell me what's resonated for you with this episode. You'll find me at tracy.cartwright. That's Tracy with no E. .cartwright. Or head over to my website, tracycartwright.co.nz, and receive a free audio with the gift from your ancestors. So until next time, be kind to yourself and have fun doing it.